back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show with your hosts, Joey and Hallie Baird.
It is the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, your destination for all things gardening, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, 850 some odd videos, short, long format, all for you, all to help like 92% of all gardeners grow tomatoes. Now, whether in containers, patio, porch, deck, in the ground, dwarf varieties, indeterminate, determinate varieties, we're going to go through 4 steps, actually 5 really, in order to ensure that your tomatoes do the best they possibly can, because we usually harvest them around late July, early August. So 4 steps in which you need to plant your tomatoes to get the best success, because just like anything in life, sowing, gardening, driving a car, if you don't start out well, it's not going to end well. If you don't start out well, if you can't get it out of the driveway, you're not going to go very far.
That's true.
So here's, we want to get the good start here, because we typically here in Wisconsin, Zone 5A, the Milwaukee area, Memorial Day weekends when we plant tomatoes. So I wanted to get a jump start on this so we have the information relevant and available before Memorial Day weekend comes. So 4 steps here.
Okay, so many people don't realize that the depth of how you plant your tomatoes makes a difference. And tomatoes are part of the nightshade family, so they have the potential to put on roots on their whole entire stalk. So you want to plant them deep. You want to put about 75% of the stalk in the ground. You can remove the leaves from where you're planting, and you also want to remove the leaves around the base of the plant too. Then that's to prevent, some disease and things like that.
See, most of the time when we buy starts, we plant them at the same depth as which they were in the container. This is totally different. We go ahead and bury these suckers, and you can dig a hole, make sure you have good loose soil in that hole, good and rich soil, and make sure it's not clay or dense like that. You can dig it, based on if let's say your tomato is 10 inches tall. You want to bury it about 7 inches in the ground.
Right.
And you just leave that little...
And so because of that, because they have the potential to put on all those roots, the tomato's going to be healthier, it's going to get more nutrients from the soil, it's just going to do better. But with that being said, if you do purchase grafted tomatoes, you want to plant those differently, but we would recommend avoiding grafted tomatoes. They're just kind of a pain to grow.
Here's the thing with the grafted tomatoes. They take the rootstock of there's special rootstocks that are available that are very expensive that commercial growers will get, grow the seed, cut the bottom inch, cut the top of the stalk off and leave an inch of stalk there, then take a variety like a black crim or a cherry variety and graft it to that rootstock in order to get whatever characteristics in which they're looking for. They cost more, and you can't bury them deep because the above portion, which is that chosen variety that the grower has decided to put on that rootstock, will root, and the rootstock doesn't work because the top portion overtakes the bottom portion, and you have a very expensive tomato plant that doesn't serve the purpose. We wouldn't recommend, there's a variety now that's come across from Europe. It's called French fries and ketchup. It is a tomato cherry variety on the top of the plant, and then underneath is a grafted potato plant.
Which is really stupid because you really can't make ketchup very well out of cherry tomatoes.
Right, but it's one plant. The tomatoes produce on the top and potatoes produce on the bottom, and these are very expensive plants, by the way. But it's a novelty, really.
Somehow I doubt those people are making their own French fries and ketchup anyway.
It's a sales thing. That's
stupid.
But yeah, we wouldn't recommend that at all. So we plant them deep in good, loose, and rich soil, whether you're doing a container or in the ground.
So you want to keep that in mind. So you want an all-purpose, well-balanced fertilizer. We like Sustain, and you can find that at Blue Mel's. Under 10-10-10. Under 10-10-10. We encourage organic. That's how we grow, but whatever works for you. And you want to make sure that at the time of planting, you plant those, you include that, and we use granular because it has that slow release.
Now, another thing, depends on where you're going to plant these tomatoes. If you're planting them in a container with minimal space, go with a compact variety. If you have, let's say, a topsy-turvy, a compact, or maybe a cherry variety would work, but a compact variety only gets about 2 foot tall. There's really dwarf varieties. There's grape varieties and little cherries that are only get a foot tall. But the compact variety is what we would recommend. You can get a good amount of tomatoes off of those. And then indeterminate are vine ones that will grow indefinitely. So if you have a lot of space, that's what we grow majority of. And they produce throughout the season. The indeterminate will grow until frost kills them. Determinate will grow to a certain stage of height, produce all of their tomatoes in a 2 to 3 week period, and they're done growing. That's pretty much it.
So you want to plant in full sun, and I know that might seem obvious to a lot of people, but we'll get people that say, I planted my tomatoes, they didn't do well.
I did them under a tree.
But I put them under a tree.
Yeah.
Well, that was your first mistake. And not everybody knows that. Not everybody realizes that. So when we say full sun, we're talking about at least 8 hours of sun.
You could squeeze 6 hours, but you're going to see a decrease in the production of your tomatoes. But
so we have the saying, which I've said several times, is if you grow it for the fruit or the root, you want full sun, and if you grow it for the greens, it can tolerate the shade.
Now, we want to talk about, we've got the tomato planted, and you can go on our website and type in tomatoes, and we have dozens of videos on really in-depth, detailed on how to do this. We're just kind of giving you a chunk here so you don't make mistakes that will hurt you in the long run. We want to talk about diseases. 90% of the problems your tomato plant will face are diseases that splash up that are in the soil that will splash up on your tomato leaves. So one thing we do is we mulch. We use dry grass clippings, shredded leaves, dry chemical-free grass clippings, shredded leaves from the fall. You can use straw. You could use shredded paper, something to put a barrier between the soil and the plant for a couple of reasons. One, if you protect the soil, it's going to dry out slower. It's not going to evaporate as quick because it's not exposed to the sunlight. Two, it's going to suppress weeds. If the sun can't get to the soil, weeds don't grow very well. And three, to prevent that soil from splashing up on the actual plant of the tomato. Early blight is one of the most prevalent diseases in everybody's soil that affects your tomatoes most.
Now, if you're not sure what early blight is, it's when you have the yellowing of the leaves consistently. It starts at the bottom of your plants, and then it just continues to grow up that throughout the season, and then come end of August, you have these sad-looking plants with only tomatoes hanging off of them.
And in order to prevent that, you add mulch, and you add a handful of yellow whole grain cornmeal. We recommend Hodgson's Mills because they're a sponsor, and apply one handful at the time of planting around the base, and it has a beneficial bacteria that fights that early blight in the soil. And since we've done that, we've reduced the effects of early blight by about 90%. And you also want to, throughout the season, continue to trim from ground level up the plant about 8 inches. Just remove all the foliage around it, leave the stalks to give that air gap and prevent the soil from splashing up. So that's a brief summary so you can get better tomatoes come August. So hopefully that helps. Again, you can always go and ask us more questions via email, Twitter, if you catch us after the program. If you're in the Milwaukee or surrounding areas, just tune your radio to 860 AM or FM 106.5. You can also find links on our Facebook pages, The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener and Home Canning. Our website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, click on the radio tab at the top of the page, then click on the Listen Live button, and you'll have immediately access to our live program. Mobile devices work very well. Also, go to your app store and download for free the TuneIn app or the Simple Radio app. Then search WNOV 860, save it to your favorites, and you can have access to our radio show live wherever you're at in the world. Our radio program will also have podcast replay under the radio tab several days following the live broadcast. You can find all of these links in the show notes below. Our show airs 9 to 10 a.m. Central Standard Time every Saturday, March through the end of October. And we want to thank our sponsors because without them, this would not be anywhere possible. You can find all of their links under the radio tab on our website at thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.